Oh,
and say E. We hope this makes you feel happy. Now please sit down. We told you our presentation would move you. We will explain later why we had you do this exercise. Now while y'all were observing our nonverbals, we were observing y'all's. Nonverbals are very powerful. Today we will be talking about leveraging the power of nonverbal communication. We have Brittany, Catherine, and myself, Kelly. I'll first begin with the introduction and the audience point of view, and then Brittany will go into the speaker's point of view, as well as the first aspect of nonverbal communication, which is vocal dynamics, and Catherine will end with the visual thinking, gestures, and facial expressions. To begin, the definitions between verbal and nonverbal communication. Verbal is actually what you say and mean, while nonverbal it consists of the messages that aren't your words. 90% of what we communicate is through our nonverbal communication. How comfortable the speaker is, how he stands and moves, his eye contact, tone of voice, and appropriate clothes. These are all symbolic messages. These symbolic messages help the listener to interpret the speaker's intent. Not only intelligence, but also emotional intelligence is needed for interpreting these nonverbal elements. People tend to gain trust and credibility through one's nonverbal actions. For nonverbal communication, there is an audience point of view as well as the speaker's point of view. And the three aspects of nonverbal communication that we will go into today are vocal dynamics, visual thinking, and gesture and facial expressions. From the audience point of view, there's expectations for both y'all, the audience, as well as for us, the speaker. What we do and what we look at for our nonverbals includes how comfortable the speaker is. So if we were standing behind the podium, that would communicate to y'all that we were timid and nervous for today. However, we are not. We are standing confidently. If we were moving back and forth, pacing, but we are not, we're using gestures to engage the audience. With appropriate eye contact, I could either be standing at my shoes or I can be making visual eye contact with each one of you guys to show that we are prepared. And for tone of voice, it's important to make your voice appropriate with the context of the material that you are presenting. So for example, if you're sharing good news with the audience, your voice may be more enthusiastic. Whereas if you were informing the audience in a business meeting, your voice and tone would be more serious and stern. And then for appropriate clothing and dress, today we dress more professional, but if we were here in our pajamas, y'all would not take us very seriously. The most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. Now, I'd like to pass it off to Brittany, who will go more into the speaker's nonverbal communication.
Thank you, Kelly. So like Kelly stated, the speaker also pays attention to their audience's nonverbal. So what is the speaker paying attention to? Well, if the speaker notices that the audience, if the audience is, sorry. If the speaker notices that the audience is looking at them directly, nodding occasionally, smiling, and if their posture is open and inviting, then the speaker knows that the audience is listening and paying attention. Now, if the speaker notices that their audience is fidgeting or making distracting movements, multitasking such as texting or doing other work, yawning and looking around the room and constantly checking the clock, then the speaker will know that the audience is bored and they are uninterested. Now I'll go into the first aspect of nonverbal communication, which is vocal dynamics. Your audience responds to vocal pitch, inflection, and tone. While delivering your presentation, you should have a lively, dynamic, and empathetic speaking voice. You will lose your audience if your voice seems threatening, boring, phony, or hostile. So you need to let your voice reflect your goodwill and commitment of your message. With that, I'm going to go into the 4 important tools of vocal delivery, which are emphasis, pitch, variety, pacing, and rhythm. With emphasis, say certain words with some strain in your voice, or maybe a little bit louder so your audience picks up that it is an important point. An example would be your professor that is going over a lecture and emphasizes certain information to kind of give you a hint that maybe that's going to be on the exam. Next is pitch variety. A change in the tone of your voice can show transition from one thing to another. Next is pacing. If you speak too fast, your audience will have a hard time understanding you and comprehending the information. If you speak too slow, your audience will get bored. So you need to keep a constant flow in your voice to keep your audience attentive and interested. Last, we have rhythm. You need to have a smooth flow of speech. Speed up and slow down at times to try and differentiate the information. Now I'll pass it on to Catherine, and she'll go into visual thinking, facial expressions, and gestures.
Thank you, Brittany. Yes, so for visual thinking, all presentations and speeches must include a visual component, and this goes beyond handouts. Our generation is used to media-generated images. These include tweets, advertisements, and videos. The audience sees the presentation as a show. They are conditioned by the media to consider a visual element as part of the presentation as central to its message. Think of a comedian and their stand-up bit. They typically don't have images behind them, but they create that visual component so you're put in their perspective, which makes the joke funny. We can achieve visual thinking by commanding the space. The presenter has to know that the audience is already making decisions about the presenter based off of how they carry themselves and how they're moving through space. They're looking for their credibility and their professionalism. We need to do what is known to be called opening the audience's third eye. The third eye is how the presenter sees themselves commanding the space and their physical movements. Move boldly and decisively. Ask yourself, am I owning the territory? The territory is the space in which you're presenting, the stage in which you're presenting. Am I feeling confident? Am I appearing confident? Leaders know how to move boldly and decisively, so be that leader. Some do's and don'ts. The key is to have fluid movements. You don't want to seem stiff or have jerkiness. Sorry. You want to welcome the audience into your space. Have open palms. And lastly, you want to have expansive movements. This will make you look and feel confident. So these next few physical expressions can suddenly send hostile messages to your audience. Don't nod repeatedly as an audience member is asking a question about your presentation. This makes you come off as impatient. Yes, nod in a way in which you give the audience member the feeling that you're listening, but not in a way where you're trying to speed them up and get to their point. Next, don't channel your inner Quasimodo, the hunchback from Notre Dame. This shows that you have discomfort. Don't have that defensive posture. And lastly, don't make overly large and abrupt movements. This makes the listener reduce their confidence in you as a speaker, and this makes you look like you don't have comfort in your space. As far as facial expressions and gestures, using physical expressions amplify your message. Using strong gestures are essential components of who you are as a communicator. Use your whole arm, shoulder on down, widen your expression. This allows you to include both sides of the audience into your presentation. Also, you want to lean towards your audience during key moments of your presentation. This makes it feel like you're engaging with your audience and like you're telling them a little secret, like something that they should know. And lastly, facial expressions are reflective. They show your emotions towards your presentation. They show how you're feeling and what you're typically thinking. It's kind of like whenever I was younger, I during a birthday party, I got a SpongeBob poster from one person. I was happy and great, but then I got the same exact present from another person, and I had like a half-baked smile, and it didn't look genuine. So my expressions were disconnected from how I was actually feeling. You can change how you feel by pretending, like our class exercise we did earlier. Making you say that sound E forces you to have a smile, which and it typically creates a pleasant feeling. Yes, so expression and emotion are tied together. And now on to the quiz. So number 1, people respond to vocal pitch, inflection, and blank. Number 2, incorporating blank and blank into your presentation style will increase your confidence as a speaker. Number 3, vocal delivery. And number 5, what are 3 physical expressions that can send subtly hostile messages?
Thank you.